We have got quite the show for you. I want to say this right off the bat before we get into it. First and foremost, as usual, we are with David TaL. He is live in Israel. By the way, right behind him is the window to his bomb shelter. That's about as real as it gets. Some crazy stuff is going on. We are going to talk about that. We're going to have a discussion about what's going on in Gaza. We're going to talk about what's happening with Iran. There are some big picture issues that we are going to have a conversation about. Before we do that, I do just want to take a very quick moment to thank you guys that are supporting us on both ends. Those of you that are supporting us on Rumble, we want to personally thank you for that. You guys are awesome. You're a massive blessing. Thank you so much for your support. We're so grateful for that support. And then for those of you guys that are supporting us on YouTube, thank you so much. I know that we've got a couple of super chats that have already come in. I'm not allowed to really read Brad Brunn's super chats anymore, even though I still will read them because he gets me in trouble with his comments, but they're so dang funny. Like this one. This one is really funny. Brad says this. He says, oh, let me find it. I just lost it. His theory on the pale horse is a crack up. He says, I saw a whacked out dude say that the white horse was Catholicism, the red horse was communism, and the black horse is capitalism. I want to know if he thinks the pale horse is Bidenism. Oh, I think that's funny. We just lost David. Let me read the other comment. Hopefully we'll get David right back. Oh, there he is. I think, hopefully he did. David, what happened to you? We lost you. Oh, well, there you go. Well, hopefully not anymore. And Amanda Gotts, thank you so much for your support. Let me make sure that our audio here isn't going to drop out anymore either. Oh, you are. I still need to bring you in, David. It doesn't show you as brought in. Hold on. People think that you're still out. Hold on one second. David is with me. I just need to bring him into the scene here. Hold on one second, folks. Sorry about that. He was only out for about 10 seconds, and he was talking, and I guess he lost his internet connection. You're back with us, David. Sorry about that.
Right.
I don't know what happened there. Okay, so we're going to get started on this. Let me just make sure people are hearing us. Dale, can you confirm that people are hearing us? I just want to make sure that that's the case. It's important.
Well, I can tell you a story about, what's happening or whatever.
Yeah, no, we need an update. I think we have to start with that. Dale, is audio working? Dale? It is. Okay. I don't think he heard me, but it's okay. All right. Let's start with this, bro. Give us the latest and greatest. Give us the update. Tell us what's happening. We're hearing a lot of conflicting reports as into what's going on. I know Sunday morning as I was getting ready to go to church around 4 o'clock in the morning, my time, Christy had texted me. I think you were in the north, at the time. I don't remember what she said was happening. I think you were in the north. Anyway, and in your hometown of Modi'in, there were missiles being launched. As a matter of fact, it's interesting. My understanding is the rockets that were being launched into Tel Aviv was for the very first time in maybe 4 months that we've seen rockets, launch into Tel Aviv. So maybe you can update us on that. Tell us what was going on, and then let's get into more of the other stuff.
So I'm gonna throw bullets here just so we kind of maybe line them up a little bit later. Start off with bullet number 1. The ICC or ICJ, whatever you want to call them, decided to issue arrest warrants for Sinwar, who is the head of Hamas, and for Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. And they actually voted to demand that Israel stop or not commit genocide in Rafah anymore. They did not vote for Israel not to go in. There wasn't an actual, legal binding agreement that Israel doesn't go in. They actually voted on a call for Israel to try not to hurt civilians and not to have genocide. Based on those two things, Israel, who's been holding back for a long time, let go on Rafah. So we go on to Rafah. Basically, about a week and a half ago, we've already cut off the Philadelphia corridor. And again, we've got a movie coming up today that's going to talk about all of this in a couple of hours. But cutting off the Philadelphia corridor, which is the border between Israel and Egypt, Gaza and Egypt. So Israel is inside the Gaza Strip, actually on the border with the Gaza Strip and Egypt on both sides. Israel goes in and then starts strategically taking out targets in Rafah. When I mean strategic, special forces going in, taking over a building or two or three, okay, doing what needs to be done and basically moving out. We found the bodies of something like 7 hostages as a result of these strategic movements. We found a big, massive tunnel with 3 bodies underneath the United Nations UNRWA Center, okay? We're finding huge amounts of munitions. And the feeling was that the United States had reached an agreement that Israel is going to do this carefully. The world is making noise, but nobody is saying don't do anything. Egypt is saying be very careful, we don't like this, but not really doing anything. And Israel started to do that. And that was as of Sunday afternoon. And maybe this will connect to what we're talking about. The overall feeling is that Israel is going to finish off the Hamas. And that no matter what the world says or no matter what the American administration is going to say, it's going to happen. And we can talk about what happens. Then we got information about the head of Hamas in the West Bank, meaning Hamas has affiliates or has a big presence in the West Bank. This is the guy that kidnapped, I don't know if you remember, he was responsible for kidnapping the 4 kids that got in the car, and we heard them being executed in the car. He's a very, very bad guy. He's a legitimate Hamas target. And Israel decided to take him and his second in command out in a compound in Rafah, on the edge of Rafah. They used, and I heard an interview with the Israeli pilot, they did not use the usual munitions that they would have used in this kind of situation. They used very small munitions.
That's right.
3.7 kilo. Now, 3.7 kilo in pounds is about 7-8 pounds of explosive, as opposed to 500. They did, as a result of very accurate intelligence, did take out the Hamas commander in that place, but there must have been more ammunition in that site because a secondary explosion resulted in a fire that spread through a refugee camp that was right next to that and killed a lot of Palestinians. And now a lot is a relative term. They say 45. I'm kind of, we've learned that the Palestinians, but even if it's 5 or 10, that's still a lot of people that are killed as collateral damage on a very, and I'm going to use the American term, a very surgical strategic strike.
Yeah, 100%. Look, I want to just say this. I want to go back to some of your bullet points. I want to say this one thing and make myself very clear because I've said it before and I'm not embarrassed to say it again. Listen to me. Everybody listen to me and listen to me good. And I'm serious about this. I'm going on record on this. I want people to hear me. I've gone on record about this before. I've said it before. I'll say it again, and I'll keep saying it again and again and again. The United Nations is a terrorist organization. Let me say it one more time. The United Nations is a deep, dark, demonic terrorist organization. They had a moment of silence for the Iranian president and for the foreign minister. No joke, by the way. Just so everybody understands, Abdollahian was allowed to speak in the United Nations Security Council literally 6 days, 5 days after they bombed or made an attempt to destroy the state of Israel. Okay? So they had a moment of silence for Abdollahian and his president. They stood by, right? Ibrahim Raisi, folks, this is the butcher of Tehran. He has killed more Iranians than they claim the Israelis have killed Palestinians. Okay? And they have a moment of silence for these 2 men. We saw it. We recovered the bodies of some of our hostages under the UNRWA building. Think about this for a second. These people are demonic. They are evil. The United Nations is at the same level as Iran, and unfortunately, the United States of America is complicit with them. Their hands are bloodied. It's that simple. And I want to make myself clear. Do not minimize the significance of this. By the way, there is an audio file going around right now that the IDF has released about these two Hamas leaders that are talking about the small amount of explosives that were used by the Israelis to target these items, and the munitions quarter that they actually blew up, and the victims that they placed there in order to become or the people that they placed there in order to become victims in the eyes of the world. Okay? They are terrorists. These people are evil, wicked, demonic terrorists. And you know what? The United Nations is complicit. They're not just complicit. They themselves are terrorists. They are a terrorist organization, and we need to get that in our heads, and we need to remember what they are. It's really, really simple. And with respect to Egypt and Saudi Arabia and some of these other people that are being quiet about all of this, they're going to be. What do you expect? They don't want these people anywhere near their country just as much as Israel doesn't want them in theirs. It's really simple. Yeah, they're going to run their mouths, and yeah, they're going to say things like, no, we condemn these actions, we condemn these actions, yet they're continuing to maintain normalcy. They're continuing to maintain relationships with Israel while going out of their way to make sure that none of these animals enter into their country. So let's be real about what's going on. These are terrorists. The United Nations are terrorists. And anybody who walks with complicit action with any of these animals are terrorists and animals themselves. It's that simple. It's that simple.
One of the things I think we've talked about in the past is the fact that we live in a world where likes and the amount of followers and the amount of subscribers that you have determines whether you're right or wrong. Now, if you and I read the Bible, the same Bible that we read, right and wrong is not determined by democracy, not determined by the majority. In many, many cases, the Bible and history has shown that the majority is wrong, okay, morally, ethically, spiritually wrong. And still, okay, but we live in a world where the majority is the main source of power. If there are more countries who vote against Israel than there are countries who don't, that makes the vote against Israel is very, very justified and wrong. Right. And what I'm trying to say is this, and a good example that I like to bring is that when Moses sent the 12 spies into Israel, into the promised land, okay, 12 of them came back. 10 of them said, let's not do this. 10 of them, the majority, the vast majority, said this is a mistake. 10 of them stood up there and said, we don't need this. Only 2 of them were right. And we're here today because of the 2 who were right and not because of the 10 that were wrong. We need to remember that the majority is not always right, and especially in what's going on here.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the overwhelming majority, oftentimes, the overwhelming majority of the time, the majority is not right. And that's just the reality of everything that we're facing right now in the current moment. People don't understand the majority that looks at this and supports the actions of these terrorist organizations. They themselves are complicit. They're terrorists themselves. Let's make myself very, very clear when I say this. If you support the behavior of Hamas and you support what they're doing, you yourself have the heart and the mind and the desire of a terrorist. You function as one because you think like one, you act like one, thus you are one. It's really simple. What they're doing right now is evil and nothing short of inexcusable.
Maybe to just finish off the overview, there was an incident with the Egyptians that a lot of people are not talking about. And it's the fact that they're not talking about it is as interesting as the incident itself.
Yeah, the Philly corridor incident. That's the one you're talking about?
So again, we're on the Philly corridor.
Yep.
Okay. An Egyptian soldier, for all kinds of reasons that we haven't found out yet, opened fire on an Israeli unit. They fired back. The Egyptian soldier was killed. Okay, this is if you want to call it this way, a friendly fire kind of situation, because neither one of them wanted to fire on each other. We're not exactly sure what happened or why it happened. But here's the thing: we heard about it. There was news. Egypt says it was appalled, but then it was hushed. Now, you know that something like this would have been ammunition in the hands of the Egyptians if the Egyptians had wanted to turn off the fire.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Again, this is so. What I'm trying to say is this, and maybe this is what we need to kind of look at. I think, and again, we're going back onto the Goodyear blimp. It's about to be over. As much as the world tried, and as much as the administration tried, as much as everybody tried, as much as Iran tried to turn on the fire, the situation, the military situation in Hamas is about to be over. Hamas is going to be defeated in Gaza at some level or another.
Yeah.
Now, the question is this: how much damage is Israel going to suffer on a diplomatic, political, whatever you want to call it? 3 nations already recognize the Palestinian state, actually rewarding the Palestinians for the 7th of October.
Yeah. Unilaterally.
Okay? Unilaterally. Now, here's the thing. James, what? Where? They don't have an army. They don't have a government. They don't have anything. I mean, they're not a state. They're not ready to be a state yet. Okay.
Right. No.
They've actually recognized and they're actually rewarding. Now, it's lip service. It's virtue signaling more than anything. It's not real. There's nothing in it.
Because there's no virtue to signal.
Yeah, well, yeah, but they're saying it's like it's like rewarding the second place in a race because you want nobody to feel bad that they didn't get a reward.
It's probably true.
So what are they rewarding? But okay, it's going to be over soon. James, it is going to be over soon. Israel's going to be done with Hamas. Now the question is too, and this is what we need to talk about. What's going to happen there the day after?
Oh, yeah.
And what is Iran going to do after it loses one of its H's? Remember, they've got the H show going on, okay? Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthim, okay? It's going to lose one of its H's. It's going to lose control. And what is Iran going to do? Now, Iran's turned up the fire. In the north, we're getting more rockets than we have in the past. Iran is turning up the fire. Are they going to allow the Hamas to disappear under the treads of the Israeli tanks and just, go quietly? Will they tell Hezbollah to turn off the fire when that happens? Or will they turn up the fire and this kind of rolls down into a Middle Eastern ring of fire, and from there into a worldwide ring of fire? And we're right there right now.
Oh yeah. Listen, let's go back to the Egypt incident, because the Egypt incident is a very telling one. As a matter of fact, that's probably one of the most telling incidents that we have seen happen in the last couple of weeks. And I know that doesn't seem like it seems like a bit of an overreaction, but it is not an overreaction. As a matter of fact, it is one of the most dynamic pieces of evidence that we have right now that what I am saying about Egypt is absolutely right. I did a video on the subject of Egypt, warning Israel. Egypt warned Israel last week and basically told Israel, you better not enter into Rafah. You manage the Philly corridor. We don't want you to touch it, or we don't want to touch it. And basically postured themselves in a very aggressive way towards Israel. As a matter of fact, it's funny. Even Al-Sisi walked away for a little bit and allowed the official, let's just talk about the talking heads from his government to say what they said to Israel. I said it at the time. I said, this is just them being verbally posturing. They feel the same way as Israel. They do not want anybody near them. They don't want Hamas near them. They don't want Islamic Brotherhood near them. And so they're going to support Israel silently, even though they're saying what they're saying. Okay. Well, what happened in the Philly corridor is a perfect piece of evidence that what I'm saying is 100% true. Because think about it like this, right? This is my theory. You tell me if the theory is even viable, okay? I think it's very viable. This is my theory. My theory is that soldier was undoubtedly Islamic Brotherhood, okay? Yeah. He's an Egyptian soldier. He's probably Islamic Brotherhood. My guess is he thought that he could unilaterally, as one individual, spark off a war between Egypt and Israel by actually behaving aggressively towards an Israeli, knowing full well that an Israeli would respond by defending himself and probably kill him, right? So this was a suicide mission for him. So I believe that he acted in aggression with the attempt to divide the nation of Israel through the nation of Egypt, to just completely tear them apart, and he failed. Because what happened was, this is my guess, when al-Sisi found out what took place, al-Sisi probably said, that guy's Islamic Brotherhood, one less guy out there is better for me. I'm going to be quiet and you all better shut your mouths. And exactly that's what happened. Otherwise, he would be very vocal about it. He would be talking to the whole world about it. He would be calling on Netanyahu to do this or to do that. He would be losing his mind right now. And guess what he's doing? He's telling everybody to shut up. Why? Because Israel did him a favor by eliminating that rogue Islamic Brotherhood bonehead. So I'm almost certain that's what happened.
I totally agree. I mean, somebody in Egypt, wearing an Egyptian uniform, says Allahu Akbar and empties a magazine of AK-47 on the Israeli side. Israel doesn't think twice about that. And again, the soldiers on the corridor probably retaliated with overwhelming firepower. And again, this could have been the blowout that everybody was looking for. He might have even been ordered to do it by elements of the jihadi movement. I mean,
undoubtedly, this is Islamic Brotherhood. It reeks of Islamic Brotherhood.
Okay, but Egypt didn't want that to be the spark that blows up what's going on. Again, there were other sparks. Okay, Israel takes over the Rafah border crossing, and Egypt says, no, we want you to open it up and let us. Okay, why did Israel take it over? One, we want to control what comes in. Two, we want to give Egypt a way out of having to control.
Well, el-Sisi actually agreed to it. It's not like he objected to it. Their official position was, of course, to object to it. That was they had to hold that official line. They had to be able to say something like that, but he wasn't objecting to it. As a matter of fact, if he was objecting to it, then why did they spend $6 billion? Why did they spend $6 billion to build a wall in the middle of Rafah? Literally. I mean, the Egyptian side of Rafah is literally separated from the Gaza side of Rafah with this big, massive wall. Why in the world would they do that? Come on, let's wake up. We know what's going on.
So let's go on another level. You know that as big as the wall is and as big as the fence is, there are massive tunnels that go under that border.
Yep.
Now, what are those massive tunnels used for? Those massive tunnels are used to supply Gaza. And again, the question is, could Egypt turn off that supply? Okay. But those massive tunnels could be used to allow the mice or the rats in Rafah to get out into Egypt. And here's the question. When the noose is around the neck of Sinwar, is he going to run to Egypt?
Oh, I'm sure he's going to make an attempt to do so. But I'm going to tell you this right now. Egypt's going to execute him. If Egypt finds him, they're going to kill him.
Yeah, Egypt can't do that publicly, though.
No. It will be viewed as an Israeli operation in the tunnels. That's exactly how it'll be viewed. As a matter of fact, if he ends up being found dead on the Egypt side, there will be a little bit of noise that will be made because Israel will be accused of going into the tunnels into the Egypt side and killing Sinwar, and everybody will drop it later. I promise you that's what's going to happen.
Well, I don't think so. I think so. What I'm guessing is, and if I'm looking at the dynamics, everybody is waiting for Israel to do this and finish it off. Okay? And Sinwar and the top brass are a major issue. Their bodies are as important as the body of Saddam Hussein. I don't know if you remember.
Oh, yeah.
Now, they don't want him alive. Nobody wants him alive. Sinwar alive is an explosive, just like nobody wanted Osama bin Laden alive, and they didn't want a body. I mean, they didn't want a place that, that could be rallied around. So right. I'm thinking somebody's going to turn Sinwar in at some point.
What do you think? Can I ask you this question? What do you think about the theory that he's at Khan Yunis right now? Because there's a lot of people saying that he managed to, through some of the unknown tunnel systems that were at the base of Rafah, that he very likely went back into Khan Yunis, especially because of the lightened presence of Israelis in that area. What's your thought on that?
Okay, again, what we're seeing is that there is an element. I don't know if you're following what's going on in Jabalia, for instance. Jabalia.
Oh yeah.
on the northern corner, which means there is stuff going on underneath. We again made a mistake. We thought we'd finished off the Jabalia brigades. We thought what was left was maybe the leftovers of one brigade, but it turns out that there were almost three. And Jabalia is becoming an issue right now. What I'm trying to say is there is more going on, but I still believe Rafah is the, how do you say, as much as anything, is the hill on top of Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
You put your flag there. I mean, that hill probably was not, the most strategic, but it was the highest point. So you need to put your flag there. And until you put your flag there, now there might, we know that there were Japanese holed up in caves for 20 years after World War II.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. And that might happen. But if you put your flag on Iwo Jima, you actually made a statement, and that needs to be made. Sinwar is probably, by the way, we know that he's surrounded by Israeli hostages.
Oh, he is. They're shielding him for sure. Absolutely.
So it's going to have to happen like that. So again, what I'm seeing right now is we are, how do you say, at the end or towards the end of this movie, but it's not over. And like any movie, the last scenes, like any computer game, the last enemy is the biggest. Though I would say this, and I don't know if you watched the clip that I put out a couple of days ago. Those 8 rockets that were fired at Tel Aviv.
Oh yeah,
they were fired probably about 500 yards from the Israeli forces, meaning if they had not fired those rockets, Israel would have taken them. Meaning they had to fire those rockets in order, one, to say we have them, two, to say, oh, look we're still fighting, and three, and James, again, look at my movie. I think this might be the last gasp. This might be the last event. Now, maybe not. There might be more rockets somewhere in Rafah. There might be more rockets in buried under the rubble where they can uncover them. But I think that Hamas as a fighting force is looking at his last days. Now the question, though, what's going to happen?
Okay, so I guess it goes along the lines of that question. Not that I'm pushing back, but what makes you think it's the end? Because the problem is this thing has a lot of tentacles that we still don't understand or know about, right? These tunnels are complex. What's in these tunnels are complex. Give me an idea of what you think is actually happening here.
Okay, yesterday we heard that the Israeli tanks were at the main mosque in the middle of Rafah.
Right.
Israel went in. We got there, but we didn't stay.
Okay.
We're being very, very careful. But if Israel completely overtakes all of this, Hamas is no longer an entity, then we start bringing in somebody else who is doing the work. And here's the thing. My nephew Sean, well, he's at home right now, but he's on a tank guarding the pier that the Americans built into Gaza.
The way it floated away. Oh my goodness. I just thought that one is the one that just cracks me up.
I get you. But here's the absurdity.
Poor Sean.
But here's the absurdity. Israeli forces are trying to guard an American facility that is trying to bring in humanitarian aid.
I know.
And that pier, by the way, wasn't bringing in all that much aid, but it was supposed to be a stage in the rebuilding. That's what's the basic idea. Okay, let's start rebuilding in a way that doesn't have to go through Egypt and doesn't have to go through Israel. That was the basic idea, and it failed. And I think maybe we should make a movie about the pier, the fact that it symbolized everything that wasn't going to work.
Well, and here's my question. What were they hoping to do? Are we sending supplies clear across the Atlantic into the Mediterranean?
No,
through the corridor that connects Spain and Morocco? into the Mediterranean and go through that canal? How are we going to do this?
No. Here's the reason for this pier, the pier, and the thing. Okay, here's a conversation. All right, the foreign minister of Spain, who is a very bad lady, okay, calls the Blinken and says Israel is not allowing humanitarian aid in. Blinken says, well, we don't know that. We know that they are allowing. And she says, no, the Israelis blew up some trucks on the way, which was true. But that didn't stop the great amount. It was more a publicity act than anything else. So she says, you need to do something. So Blinken turns around, picks up the phone, and says to the Pentagon, I want a way to bring in aid that nobody can blame Israel for stopping. and the Pentagon says, Army of Engineers, the U.S. Army of Engineers, let's put in a port where the aid doesn't come to an Israeli port and then goes into a crossing into this from either Israel, or it doesn't go through Egypt. We need to say we can bring the aid in without Israel or Egypt having a say in this. That was the idea. And that was supposed to placate the world to say, okay, Israel is allowing the aid in. We've done what we need to do to allow the aid in. Israel cannot touch that aid. Israel cannot control it. Israel cannot turn it off. Wait. I'll give you listen to this. An additional just came to my head. Tomorrow, a week from now, a month from now, somebody's going to decide to build an airport in Gaza.
I agree. Which will be the dumbest. You understand how incredibly stupid that would be?
It's all about the media. It's all about the publicity. Do you understand that a Jordanian C-130 dropped a ton of aid on the Gaza Strip? The King of Jordan was on the plane when it happened. That happened a month and a half ago. I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember this.
King of Jordan was on the plane. Do you know that some of those boxes hit Palestinians on the head and killed them? 8 Palestinians were killed by the Jordanian aid.
I did not know that. I did not know, but that makes me laugh.
Palestinians. I'm sorry. I don't want to laugh about people who are dying. But, it's like it was all about the publicity stunt. It wasn't about the actual aid coming in. A pier is not going to solve the problem of the aid. Okay, and the rebuilding of Gaza is going to be a much more monumental aspect. And again, I can't help but say the big carrot is getting closer and closer as we speak. It's happening.
Yeah. Look, I see exactly what you're saying, and I can see where all of the parallels are being drawn here. I think that these are very important distinctions that we need to make. But I think perhaps one of the most significant variables that is oftentimes overlooked when it comes to this whole argument, this whole discussion, all these things going on, is that the Palestinians don't want what we think they want. Okay? They don't want what Americans think they want.
They don't want
ridiculous.
A solution. They don't want it.
No, they want a single state solution, and they want to eliminate every Jew off the face of the earth. And if they can take Americans with them, then they're extraordinarily happy.
Oh, no, you're next in line. I mean, yeah. Take a number.
We were in LA, actually, like the Palo Verde area recently, yesterday. And I saw these 2 Orthodox Jews that were waiting in line where we were. And I walked up to them, and they looked like they were horrified when I went to speak to them. They looked like they didn't, like they're like, here we go again. And I told them, hey, I want to just start off by telling you this. My mom and dad were born and raised in Egypt, and they look at me like, this is not going to be a good conversation. and I just pointed at my dog tag. And one of them almost immediately started crying. Like he looked like he was literally fighting back tears. He said, you have no idea how good it feels to just have somebody for the first time, like for a change, just walk up to us out of nowhere and tell us that you love us and support us. You know what I mean? It's like, that's how bad it's getting. These are people living in LA, and everywhere they go, bro, everywhere they go, they're getting slammed. It's ridiculous.
I've got a new dog tag, and I'm
Your
going
old
to.
one, your old one died. Your old one broke.
This one says, okay, it's got a Star of David and says, "I am a proud Jew,"
Oh, I love that.
and I'm going to start wearing this in LA. Let's see what happens.
Good for
So
you.
pray for me. Pray for me.
Good for you. Well, listen, I saw one of those when I filmed at PragerU. The absolutely sweet lady who was like doing all the stuff, like they make you look pretty before you go on the on the screen. She was
Did it
such a
work?
sweet lady. She was a
James,
makeup
did it
lady.
work?
Huh? No,
Did it
it
work?
didn't work, bro. It was it's a terrible mistake. But she was such an incredible lady. I mean, first of all, super beautiful lady on the inside and on the out. I think that she was in her 60s and was just like a super, super amazing lady, right? Lived in Israel a good portion of her life. Matter of fact, when I was there at the PragerU building, most of the people that are over there are Jewish. And it was such a great experience. Like it was really, really nice.
By the way, where is
talking.
that? Where's the building?
I can't talk. They make you because of the security concerns.
Ah,
We can't even disclose it. Believe it or not. As a matter of
is
fact,
it in continental United States?
when we went into the building, when we actually went into the building, there were two guys. There's massive security over there. There was even a few guys that were IDF soldiers that were there that were running security. You know what I mean? Just finished their tours of duty, their responsibility. I mean, it's amazing when you think about how much hatred exists right now all over, and it's completely spiritual. It is so satanic. It's not even funny.
So, James, here's my question to you. And again, I'm an Israeli, and I sat down with a couple of soldiers the other day, and I sat down with my nephew the other day. Two things I think are interesting to convey from the Israeli side. We've given up. Israelis have given up on thinking, hoping, expecting that anybody's going to understand us.
Hey, I don't blame them for feeling that way. I just don't.
I mean, we're in Hebrew we have a word. We're turning into snails. It's like snails going back into their thing. We're snailing, and again, I'm hearing language that you read about in the books about Jews talking what's going to happen before the Spanish banishment. I don't know if you remember all the Jews were banished from Spain 500 years ago, or Jews that were talking during the pogroms. I mean, go back to Fiddler on the Roof and you hear some of this. When Tuvia is talking about why do my neighbors hate me so much? I mean, these are the people I've been selling milk to them, for all my life. And we're hearing that kind of rhetoric from young Israelis. Again, I'm not surprised. But and I'm going to say this: Israelis are not surprised about what's happening.
No. It's spiritual. We know it.
But here's the thing, James, and I think you would appreciate me on this one. I'm Israeli, but I'm also American.
Yep.
I'm Jewish, but I'm also Christian. Meaning my Christian American part is weeping for what's going on in the United States.
How could you not?
I'm an American patriot. I am. I loved America. I loved what the United States of America has been and done for the world. Not everything is right, not everything is true. But on the whole, America has represented the good things on the world stage for many, many years now. Okay? And again, we've done bad things, we've done terrible things, but and here my Israeli side is saying, you guys are crazy. We know you're going to hate us. Fine. My Jewish side is saying, okay, we say never again, but here we are again. I mean, again, my Jewish side is saying this is just going to be another holiday one day. Okay, this is going to be another celebration. But my Christian American side is weeping for what's happening, James. I can't believe it. I can't believe this American amazing country that symbolized all the good. I mean, I can talk about World War II, and I can talk about the Marshall Plan, and I can talk about again a country who fought a civil war to abolish slavery. I mean, again, slavery was terrible, but you did, and it's just like a family that you see somebody that you love is going down the wrong path.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, this is bro, this is absolutely true. And this is the direction, the general direction that things are going in. It's terribly sad. And it's sad that you have to feel that way. It's sad that it's gotten to that point. But again, what do you expect? America has turned their back on God. So if they've turned their back on God, of course they're going to turn their back on God's people. Of course they are. Of course they are. Christians and Jews are the number one most persecuted group right now in the United States of America. And that's a crazy statement. I never thought I would see the day where you could make that statement and it actually be viable, actually even be real. But that's what's going on. So let me just say this, because we still have some things to talk about. I entitled this show, "There's No Turning Back for Israel and Iran." Okay? There's a lot of reasons why there's no turning back for Israel and Iran. Okay? Let's talk about this for a second, because I think it's really important that we have gone to a point of no return. Iran will never recover from the place that it has brought itself to. And as a matter of fact, if Iran does not get destroyed temporarily for a little while until it gets built back up in some type of coalition, then I can tell you that it will be ruled and owned by Russia. Okay? But either way, putting that aside, we're at the point of no return. The days of peace between the two nations is gone, right? It's not happening. And not only are we past the point of no return with respect to how they relate to one another, we're past the point of no return with respect to how Israel conducts its business. Israel can no longer be what Israel used to be, even 8 months ago. Even before October 7th, Israel has gone past the point of no return. Prior to October 7th, Israel actually thought it had a chance with Hamas. Israel actually thought that there could be some sort of diplomatic relationship, and in their minds, they were already working towards it with people in Qatar. So we're gone now. Like, it's done. October 7th happened. It's over. It's the point of no return. The world has turned against Israel. Israel is basically telling the world to go shove it up their rears, which they should. Right? Israel's going to have to do it. They're going to have to recognize it, right? There's going to come a point in time where they're going to have to say, enough is enough. You guys go shove it, right? It's going to have to happen, okay? But Iran is also at a point of no return. Here's the thing that people don't see about Iran and the president dying, and of course the foreign minister, which, by the way, this is something that Raisi and Abdollahian know right now, they know it well. Mess around and find out, right? Mess around with God and find out. They're dead now. They're burning in literal hell. They are screaming and crying. There is no Allahu Akbar. There is no 72 virgins. There's none of that. They're burning in literal hell. Okay?
72 Virginians.
Yeah. There might be some Virginians that they're with. But the reality of it is they are weeping and gnashing their teeth. There is eternal loneliness. There's eternal separation from the true and living God, not Allah, from the true and living God, and they're burning in hell. Okay, that's the reality of it. So putting that aside, let me tell you what's going to happen in Iran. Khomeini is not going to play games. Khomeini hasn't been playing games. People don't understand this. They think, oh, well, there's going to be a new election, and the new election might open up some doors for some kind of a revolution. No. It doesn't work that way. Okay, I want everybody to understand this. Khomeini picks out the people who are going to run for president. The foreign minister will be appointed by Khomeini. This is the work of the Ayatollah. People don't understand this. The supreme leader is the one who, in essence, rules everything. Yes, the foreign minister and the president were the second and third most highest ranking people in Iran, but it's going to make a difference. And I can make this promise. There is a younger contingency of people in Iran that are far more radical than Raisi ever was, who will absolutely 1,000,000% with a militant cause follow along with the ideals, the thoughts, the philosophies, and the mind of the current supreme leader. And the current supreme leader, who thought he was going to be replaced by his president, is no longer looking at that. It's probably going to be his son, and his son is crazier than him. So, Iran is going to get worse, folks. It's not going to get better.
Exactly. Okay, so what's coming to my mind when I think about this is it's on this downhill road, and there's no way to turn it back. It's going to go down the road of Afghanistan.
100%.
It's going to go down the road of Lebanon, by the way.
Easily.
It is, but on steroids, okay? Afghanistan has become a hotbed, and here's the problem. And This is part of the issue that we're talking about. And again, if you want a geopolitical dynamic that will bring about what I think or see or understand will happen in according to Ezekiel 38, is that Iran will fall apart, disintegrate, and that disintegration. I mean, why did Al Qaeda set up shop in Afghanistan? Not because Afghanistan was smart or strong or had a strong government, because Afghanistan turns into a wild, wild west or a wild, wild nothing. And in wild, wild situations, okay, that brings the rise of the radical, crazy, terrifying, satanic dynamic. That becomes a hotbed for that. So Iran is going to fall apart. I believe so. Iran's going to fall apart, whether it is with a full-fledged war with Israel. And think what's going to happen. I mean, okay, scenario. Not even a nuclear war. Iran declares war on Israel, pulls off a full-fledged war. Do you know what happens the day after that to Iran's electric capability, to their ports? Remember when they attacked us? I don't know if you remember. There was a cyber attack that Iran pulled off. And for 2 days, the tracking system of the containers in Iran's largest port got all mixed up. Meaning nobody knew what container was on what truck, on what dock, in what place. Somehow. I don't know how it happened. Okay? But think about that happened to the whole Iranian society. If Israel ever pulls out its whole cyber capabilities, somebody's going to suffer drastically.
Oh, yeah, undoubtedly. Undoubtedly. And by the way, just so that you know, Russia and Iran right now are having very serious talks about a permanent exchange that they want to take place, where Iran is going to provide a lot more aggressive well, basically, they're going to create a much more aggressive system that will provide drones for Russia for the purpose of what they're doing in Ukraine. And you know what Russia's going to do? Russia's going to give them cyber technology information.
Exactly.
So that's where we're going.
That's where we're going. Okay. And please tie in the Chinese to this.
Oh, this is easy. The Chinese tie is not a hard tie to bring in at all. So think of it like this. The Chinese are the fuel for the fodder, okay? So let me just say this. The Chinese become very inconsequential overall as all of this begins to formulate. But the inconsequentiality that we see developing or emerging from the Chinese will be as a result of them being thrown away like a piece of garbage once the purposes of Russia are actually met and once the world stage actually does exactly what it's going to do. Let's go back to one really important picture that's going to drive this relationship, and that's energy, right? China right now has an insatiable appetite for energy, okay? Prior to the sanctions that the United States placed upon Russia, Russia was the single greatest provider to China for the energy needs that they had, okay? So then what ends up happening is the sanctions begin to take place that the international community places on Russia because of what happened in Ukraine, which, by the way, Russia was forced, in essence, into Ukraine by the United States of America. Let's just get real. It was forced into Ukraine by the Biden regime, okay? But let me just take it one step further.
Biden?
By the Biden regime. Absolutely by the Biden regime. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
All right.
The Biden regime, the vice president of the United States gets up in front of the international community and basically tells the international community that we must make Ukraine a member of NATO. This is a year. This is a year before Putin goes into Ukraine. And by the way, just so you know this, so then Putin goes to the international community and tells the international community, specifically, he goes directly to NATO, and he says, you better off yourself or I'm going to off you. And so what ends up happening after that? You got idiots, royal jack donkeys, like complete idiots, like Lindsey Graham, who gets up there and pretty much says, we need to have guys like Putin assassinated, okay? The first time he called for the assassination of Putin, it was not, absolutely was not after they invaded Ukraine. It was before that time, okay? So think about this for a second. You've got Lindsey Graham saying that. You've got prominent, very prominent people on both sides talking about how the annexation of Crimea was wrong, that Georgia should not have, that Russia should have nothing to do with Georgia. You understand, the annexation of Crimea was in essence the liberation of Crimea, according to a lot of people that live there, because all of those people are very Russian in nature. But let's not get into all of those details. Let me just simply say this. Putin was backed into a corner. The whole reason why Putin kept himself from invading Ukraine at the time that he really wanted to, which was during the Trump administration, was because Trump said, don't worry, Putin, I will handle NATO. NATO needs to actually be reeled back in. So he goes to NATO and he says, I'm not doing anything for you guys anymore. As the president of the United States, I've got the sole authority to cut off any funding to you guys, and I'm going to cut it all off until you guys start stepping up and taking responsibility for the wars you choose to start. So what ends up happening is these guys start giving more of their defense budgets into NATO, and they begin to realize we cannot afford to create a mechanism of rhetoric that will create some type of inflammation within the minds and the hearts of the people that are on the opposite end, and as a result will create stability. So these guys start shutting their mouths. The rhetoric begins to stop. They start paying more money into NATO by a couple of percent, and the reality of it is things kind of come to a lull. Putin is happy. Everybody's happy because the expansion of NATO is no longer on the table because of a strong leader in the United States of America who says, I won't let you expand. And as a matter of fact, you're going to fall on your face because I'm going to stop subsidizing you. So when the Biden administration comes in, this donkey comes in, this complete idiot, he comes in and he basically says, he makes it very, very clear. He goes, well, I'm going to pretty much turn over everything that Trump's ever done, including all the things that have helped the country, right? Not that I'm sitting here calling anybody the answer to our country. The only answer to our country is Christ. But the reality of it is he went in just for the heck of it. He did it with the borders. He did it with the situation in Western and Eastern Europe. He did it with countries all over the world. He reversed policies that created a mechanism of stability, completely threw them away, and the reality of it is he created the havoc that was created. As a matter of fact, let me take it even a step further, okay? Because when Bennett was in office, when his government had formed in Israel, Bennett was giving all kinds of concessions to Russia. As a matter of fact, as a favor to Russia, Bennett was actually allowing Lebanon, was telling Beirut, you have a crack at the area over the Mediterranean that we're drilling, right? That whole problem that, thank God Netanyahu reversed, right? So keep this in mind. We pushed Russia into this situation. As a matter of fact, I think the final straw that broke the camel's back was the very moment the president of Belarus basically said, I don't trust Poland. I don't trust any of the people around me. They're NATO. They're going to be motivated by all kinds of stupidity. So he tells Russia, the president of Belarus, he says, hey, I'm working with you. Bring your troops in. You can keep them on the border to keep me safe. He had an interest. He had a national security interest he was worried about. He understood that his best friend would be the Russian Federation. He knew it. He completely understood it. So when that begins to happen, then the rhetoric begins to increase and increase and increase. What do you expect? Russia goes into Ukraine. The moment that happens, we think we're going to be big tough guys. We end up sanctioning these guys. We say, here you go, Russia, you're sanctioned. Guess what Russia does? Russia knows what Trump was warning everybody over for the last several years. Russia knows that they're the sole provider, literally the only real viable provider for energy to the rest of Europe. Well, Europe might be sanctioning Putin. He might be, or they might be sanctioning Putin, but they also know that they're going to have a really cold winter. And they also know that at the time, see, people don't get this. They don't recognize this. Russia was literally the president of the United Nations Security Council, which it is still a member of. Okay? They were the president of the United Nations Security Council at the time that they invaded Ukraine. Yeah. And the reality of it is no one said anything about it. There was a lot of open rhetoric that was going on. There was we're going to sanction you, but they all knew something. They all knew that Putin had them literally by the you-know-what. That Putin knew, they knew that because the only real viable place that they can get energy from is Israel and Russia. And the reality of it is Israel's not doing it because of the pipeline issue. At least at the time, that wasn't happening. So what ends up happening? So they tell Putin, we're going to sanction you. So what does Putin do? Putin says this. Putin says, fine, no problem. And then what he does is he says this. He goes to China and he tells China, this is where the China conversation goes in. He tells China, I'm really not worried about dealing with Europe right now. So the $300 billion that you need worth of energy, you come to me for it. I'll take care of you. China says, heck yeah, that's an opportunity, especially when they realize that some of their energy resources might come out of future portions of Ukraine that might end up going their way to be able to build what they need to build to do what they're going to do. So they sign this deal. And then to Putin's surprise, which he didn't expect it, all of Europe goes back to him and says, we want your oil. We need to buy your oil, okay? So what does he say? He says, no problem. By the way, Nord Stream was blown up by the Americans, but the reality of it is, since Nord Stream is gone and I don't have much of a way to get oil to you, it's going to cost you a lot more to get it your way, because although I might be charging you this much per barrel, I'm going to charge you 3 times to 8 times that amount to get it over to you. So what ends up happening, he says, okay, it's going to be way more. Europe says, no problem. We got the money, Putin. We'll work with you. And he says, no. He says, I don't want your petrodollar. I don't want American currency. What I want is I want the money to be paid to me. It needs to be paid in rubles. So guess what? All of a sudden, there's a massive, massive shift in the foreign exchange world. There's a massive shift. Why? Because everybody has to take their dollars, the euros, the petrodollar. They have to take all their money. They've got to convert it to the ruble, and Putin overnight becomes the richest man in the world. Not only does he become the richest man in the world, but his country's economy becomes so stupidly enriched. Now they have everything that they need to subsidize the war that they're fighting against Ukraine. And not only do they have everything they need to fight against Ukraine, they've just now received an open door to be able to do what they're going to do with China. But by the way, you haven't heard the worst part of it. Here's the worst part of it, okay? And this is where China all comes into play. The JCPOA is still being negotiated by this idiot regime in the United States of America. This moronic president and this completely destructive bull caca State Department filled with terrorists decide that they're going to go to Iran and they're going to negotiate the JCPOA. So the JCPOA is already dead. At the point that the JCPOA was originally negotiated almost 10 years ago, we were already at the sunset clause. And the sunset clause, of course, relates to the use of nuclear capabilities and so on and so forth. So what did we tell them 2 years ago when this invasion takes place as a condition of the JCPOA? By the way, sitting down with Abdollahian, sitting down with these idiots that are all over there in Iran. The United States of America tells Iran, as a condition and a function of the JCPOA, which isn't worth the toilet paper that it's darn near written on, right? When they do this, when they negotiate this, they basically say, as a function of the JCPOA, oh, we are going to allow you to execute the option that you have in the sunset clause to be able to build nuclear facilities, right? In other words, you're going to reveal it to the whole world. But here's the condition that we're going to lay on you, because we're hardliners here in the United States of America. The condition is you cannot build these nuclear facilities unless you do it with the assistance of a nuclear power. And because we understand that there's time and money involved in that assistance, we will pay that nuclear power to assist you, and we will provide for them diplomatic immunity in the context of the building of that structure if something results that may incur a war or anything like that. Okay. Well, guess what country? Guess what country they're doing it with? Russia. So we're paying Russia 3 times as much money as we were paying them before the sanctions. We're now helping them. We're helping Iran by paying Russia build the nuclear facilities that they're building. Oh, and by the way, just one more thing. One more thing. This is the part that where China comes into play. China now, because of what they're doing, says, we're growing, we're building all kinds of things. We did really good. We put ourselves at a better trade advantage because of what happened with COVID. We have been given everything in the world because of Biden. They literally, listen to what China just did. China just sold off the largest amount of treasury notes in world history. As a country, they have never sold more bonds. Basically, that's them saying, we do not believe in the fiat currency that is the US dollar anymore. So they sold all that off. They sold our debt off to other people. And now in doing so, through BRICS, they're basically beginning to start the conversation of utilizing a different currency to function as a petrodollar, while China already sees it. Their economic problems are beginning to head towards an energy crisis. The energy crisis seeks to be subdued, like literally look, the energy crisis is going to be subjugated in essence, okay, by what's actually happening in Russia. And when Russia gets to the point where they can no longer provide the oil that they're promising that they're going to give to China, China's going to end up imploding, especially if they find themselves in the middle of an issue with Taiwan. And all of this that happens is going to bring you back to the inconsequentiality of China, but China being used as an accelerant to bring into fruition what we read about in Ezekiel 38. Now, I just want to say this for the record. I know there'll be a bunch of people that will send text messages to me and they will actually put it in the comments and all that. James, you talk too much. Let your guests talk. You know what? Don't send me the text messages because I am who I am and I'm not changing. Okay? Go ahead, David. Sorry, I just had to say that part because I know that was going to happen. Go ahead, brother.
Well, here's the thing. First of all, I need to ask you two questions. Is the war in Ukraine going to end? Second question. Okay, and here's what I'm trying to say. I tried to follow through all of that, but here's my question. If I'm Putin or a Russian whatever, do I want Iran stronger or weaker?
You want Iran much stronger.
Why? What do I get out of a stronger Iran?
Because Iran serves as the fodder. I'm not going to use the term fodder. Iran serves as the apex for everything that Putin needs to negotiate for his other interests that are existing in the Middle East. Iran becomes the tool that Russia uses to be able to bring stability. Can I give you a great example of this, right? Yep. When the United States of America stopped selling arms to Saudi Arabia because of Saudi Arabia's internal civil war with the Yemeni Houthis, and the Yemeni Houthis no longer being enemy combatants in the mind of the United States of America. Remember, Biden almost immediately declared them as non-combatants, declared them as a non-terrorist organization, and actually started calling them a movement, right? I mean, it's stupid. You stupid people, okay? So they
KKK is a movement.
Yeah. So they end up saying this, and by doing that, the Saudis can no longer use American weapons to defend themselves, especially with the ongoing conflict that's happening in the southern portion of the Arabian Peninsula. So what does Saudi Arabia do? Saudi Arabia goes to Russia. And they say, we want to buy your weapons. We want to buy your MiGs. We want to buy your S-400s. We want to buy all these things. Russia says, hey, no problem. And by the way, in case you haven't noticed, we have a great relationship with Tehran. We also have a great relationship with the Yemenis and everybody who act as proxies for Iran. And what we're going to end up doing is not only are we going to sell you all this weaponry that you'll be able to use, but we will hold at bay the problems that you're having in the southern portion of the peninsula, specifically the Gulf of Aden. And we're also going to handle the problems that you're having with Iran, and we're going to hold them at bay. So understand right now, because Iran is such a problem for so much of the Islamic world, they're a huge problem for everybody that's a Sunni, right? Understand what's happening. Russia has a great interest in being as close to Tehran as they are, because Russia will be able to use as a negotiating tool, right, the ability to hold Iran at bay. So the closer Russia and Iran get, the better off they become at being able to do what they do. By the way, the other reason why that's important is because it serves as a gateway into China and North Korea for the operations that exist amongst Russia to be able to secure some of the other energy resources that they know they may very well be facing, right? And when you start getting it,
James, what we are seeing is the Ezekiel polarization, the drawing apart of the two main, camps, for lack of a better word. Is that what's happening now?
Well, potentially. Look, a lot of people think that there needs to be a serious polarization between the Sunni and the Shiites. I'm not so sure that needs to be the case. I think the bigger issue for Ezekiel 38 to formulate is we need to see the destruction of all superpowers. And we're beginning to see that already. The only superpower that we know that will remain intact, according to Ezekiel 38, is going to end up being Russia, right? Matter of fact, it's interesting. By the time Ezekiel 38 actually happens, it'll probably be after, I'm almost certain it'll be after we're raptured. By the time that happens, Israel will actually be helpless. It will be incapable of defending itself, because it will have made the same mistake that it made with Hamas, and it will make the mistake of saying that we get along with everybody, they're all friends, we don't need security, everything is good. It will eventually happen again, because the Bible makes it very, very clear. And when that begins to happen, they will be incapable of defending themselves. But the difference this time is the Bible says God will intervene and he will destroy the enemies that attacked Israel. This is in Ezekiel 39 that says that. So we know that God will defend them, and we know that these nations that go attack Israel will actually be destroyed, right?
So the Sunni Shiite war that we feel is happening, the cold Sunni Shiite Cold War that's happening, okay?
May become inconsequential. It may become inconsequential. I'm not saying that it will. It could be as big as everybody thinks it's going to be, but I think it could actually become very inconsequential. And the reason why I think it become inconsequential is because people do not calculate the effect on nations that are superpowers, right, upon these nations that are functioned or groomed by idealism, Islamic idealism. As a matter of fact, there's another aspect of this that everybody has to consider, and that's this. There are people who are looking less and less and less and less to Islamic fundamentalism and are actually looking more and more and more and more to the fundamentals of economies, right? So for example, Saudi Arabia and the UAE is beginning to focus away from the fundamentals of Islam and really spending a lot more time focusing on economic fundamentals because of their desire to become economic superpowers. Mohammed bin Salman, for example, is a perfect example of somebody who thinks this way. And the royal family is getting behind him and continues to be behind him. Why? Because, when the time that he took over as the crown prince, at the very time when he was that person, which is technically the prime minister position, but when he was in that position in Saudi Arabia, when he first started, Saudi Arabia was, I believe, like right at the edge of the G20, right? Right now, they're somewhere at the ranked number 12, and they are very rapidly approaching the G7, which is the goal of the crown prince. But he has to forsake Islamic idealism in order to do that.
So what would happen if a war sparked out between Saudi Arabia and Iran? A real bona fide war.
Iran is done. Well, let me just say this when I say Iran is done. Iran ends up becoming colonized, if that makes any kind of sense, for lack of a better term.
Could that be a reason why Iran is allowing Hamas to be finished off and not willing to, invest the Hezbollah into this war with Israel?
It's very possible. Look, Iran's most significant interest right now is being able to control assets or some function in a portion of the Mediterranean. It's super, super important. So it's so important to them that they're heavily investing in Beirut. They're heavily investing in placing positions in Lebanon to keep them where they are. And believe it or not, people don't see this, but Iran is heavily investing in its relationship with Turkey, but they're doing it through a proxy. They're doing it actually through Iraq. So I don't know if you know this, but Erdogan and the prime minister of Iraq have recently met. They're working very, very closely together right now to establish a fix to the gap that was created by Turkey turning off trade relations with Israel, which is a massive mistake, right? They're trying to fix that gap because if you think about it, Erdogan is getting very desperate, especially over the fact that they're unable to find any energy resources in the portion of the Mediterranean that they've been drilling. So James, Iraq and Turkey are big. Say again?
How old is Erdogan?
Oh, goodness gracious. I'd have to go back and look, but I think he's approaching his 70s.
I mean, he's towards the end.
Yeah. He does believe he's rebuilding the Ottoman Empire. And I do want to say this. There are many, many people that if he were to die today, there are many, many people that would fill that vacuum and would be just as aggressive as him, if not more.
Okay, so what I want to try to do, what I'm trying to do right now is kind of project, okay? MBS is young. He's going to be there for a while, all right?
A long time.
But Erdogan is going to be gone soon. What about Syria's become, what has Syria become? It's become a no play.
It is a no play, and it's even more of a no play now because if you look at the news that just came out about Assad's wife, that she has this resurgence of her cancer. Assad right now, the one thing he may be a devil, he may be evil, he may be all the kind of crazy things that he is. He's very, very in love with his wife. So right now he is very distracted by the condition of his wife right now. Actually, she's really a beautiful lady. Not a nice, I mean, the Assads are not nice people, but the reality of it is she is right now at the forefront of his mind. And Russia is enabling him to have her at the forefront of his mind by basically saying, don't worry, we're handling all of your security interests. And they are. Remember, Syria's relationship with Iran is critical, and it has been critical for a long time. It's always been a good relationship.
So we're going to see
right?
the northern Middle East and the southern Middle East, meaning I'm going to say Iran, Iraq, Syria, Turkey, okay, on one side, and the Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, Egypt and Israel, Jordan on the other side.
And possibly Libya. As weird as this sounds, although that would be, by the way, the statement on Libya would be predicated upon Russia assuming control of Libya like it always wanted to do with Afghanistan, right? The thing is if they win the civil war in Libya, if Russia wins the civil war in Libya, and which they will, and they take over the security interests that they knew and wanted to be able to have, Libya will be used as a friendly place for what you would call the Southern Alliance, right? For the Sunni Alliance. I do believe that would be the case. So this big showdown that we're expecting to happen may not necessarily be a Shiite-Sunni showdown. It may actually be an existing superpower showdown because more and more these states are being, in essence, controlled by larger interests. Like, for example, do you know what country right now probably has Saudi Arabia wrapped around their fingers more than probably any other country? And I'll give you a hint. It's an Asian country.
China? No, not China.
Japan.
Interesting.
And here's the reason why. Because Japan very much has stated, not necessarily through official channels, but through back channels, its intention to want to be able to see Saudi Arabia enter into the G7 with them, right? Now, what they're not being very vocal about is who gets out of the G7 when that takes place, right? But the reality of it is they are working very, very closely with Saudi Arabia. They're developing some very, very close, remarkably close relationships right now with them. On a whole lot of levels, which, by the way, is why there's a story that just came out that I think I already released it, where Saudi Arabia, in essence, made a decision to not meet with Japan over the sickness of the king, which is interesting because that's a big deal. It's a big deal for MBS to walk away from that meeting, right? A big deal, which means he might be taking the crown a lot sooner than a lot of people think. Right, so that's why I focused on the story, was because MBS made
the crown is only a piece of metal for him. I mean, he's running the country.
No, he is. But you also have to understand it's, and I do agree with you when you say it's only a piece of metal for him and the fact that he's running the country. But what is very important about him actually taking the official crown position, which is like really, really critical, right? The thing that's really critical, it has to be understood, is that by him taking the crown actual position, then we begin to see the solidification of all of the people that work from within the royal family, number one, which is already there, but the world needs to see it. But number two, it also changes the perception of the community around, or that surrounds, Saudi Arabia, that will actually pay more attention to him and give him more leeway because they see the permanency of it. See, the thing is, it's like this. It's like Iran was negotiating with the United States of America in a positive way when Trump was the president, but then they almost gave up. It was almost a done deal, but they didn't because they wanted to wait and see what was going to happen after the election, right? Well, guess what? When Trump was not elected in the office and Biden was, then they basically said, "To heck with all of you. We're gonna fight you."
So Trump's going to come back in.
I don't know. I mean, it looks like it.
I mean,
it looks like it.
If there's any way to me to evaluate again, Trump's coming back in. Okay, and he's only coming in for 4 years. That's the problem.
Yep,
okay?
That's right.
It's not going to be a double term.
Okay? Yeah, but 4 years is long enough to destroy Iran if Trump behaves as aggressively as he does.
Yeah, but 4 years means that he has to come in, I mean, with his 6 shooters out and already, cocking the gun. Otherwise, he's not going to have time to do it. I mean, there's a 100%. Whole dynamic of going on. So how is the American election playing out on all of this scenario that we're talking about?
I hate to say this based on your question, and I know this is going to sound very offensive to some people. Unfortunately, very few Americans are considering the subject of foreign policy in the decision-making process. The closest that they're getting to the subject of foreign policy relates to the southern border. Most of them do not understand the significance. Most of them do not. Most of them are unaware.
Well,
They just are.
We know President Trump was aware. I mean, we saw him maneuvering.
I'm talking about the average American. I'm talking about the voting American.
Okay, but
that's what I'm talking about.
Is this, okay? What posturing is going on right now that is in preparation for Trump returning to power?
Right.
Which is why I think part of the reason that Hamas pushed the button now, didn't wait until later, is it needed to do this before Trump comes to power, okay? Because Trump, if we understand anything, is going to close off the normalization deal, okay? All of this would have happened the minute Trump stepped in.
Yes.
Okay, so what is Iran waiting for now? What does Iran want to happen?
Iran is banking on the fact that the United States of America will remain as weak as it has. And they do understand something that a lot of Americans don't understand. They understand the fact that even with a new strong leader coming into the United States of America, the ability to be able to reverse the trajectory of the policies that have been instituted that enable Iran is going to be very, 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 very limited. And even if the president who takes over can do it effectively with a united group of people that will help him, I'm talking about the lawmakers, then the course that trajectory can take and the time that it would take would still enable Iran to become successful in order to accomplish a lot of what they're looking to accomplish. That's why I say there's no turning back.
No, but the problem is this. And again, I'm trying to feel something that's kind of tingling here. If Iran wants to start a war with Israel, they have to do it in the next 2 months.
They've already started a war with Israel, David.
Well, no, if they want a shooting war, an all-out shooting war, if they want to do that, they've got to do it in the next 2 months, because if they don't do it in the next 2 months, it's not going to happen.
But maybe. I mean, look, again, we don't know how far Russia is willing to go to be able to solidify their interests in Ukraine. Russia is willing to do virtually anything in order to secure their southern border, especially as it relates to their national security interests for how they, even develop trade routes. So Russia will do anything that it can. They will. So that would mean that they could enable somebody like Iran. They've already put themselves on the record for saying they will defend
Russia
Iran.
Doesn't want to lose Iran. If I'm understanding correctly, the way you've laid it out,
They're not going to. They're not going to.
An all-out war between Iran and Israel would put Iran, I think, in danger of being totally unuseful to Russia at the end of it.
Yeah, that's why I don't listen. That's why I say it's not going to happen. Based on what I know in Ezekiel 38, I think the first time we see an all-out war between Iran and Israel will be when Ezekiel 38 happens. Now, if it doesn't, and Iran goes into an all-out war, like a full-blown military incursion into Israel, right? Something like that, I do believe that Israel will prevail, and Israel will prevail in a way that will completely demolish Iran's military capability, which could still play into the Ezekiel 38 scenario, because it opens up the door for Russia to strengthen the position of Iran using the tool of economy building, right? So it could very easily happen still that way.
So a broken Iran is not in Russia's interest.
It could. Are you kidding me? A broken Iran could very much be in Russia's interest. You want to know why? Here's the big reason, and people don't think about this, David. They don't. But a broken Iran could actually be a greater interest to Russia instead of a lesser interest. And the reason why is because the need to rebuild the nation that Iran has and is facing is actually not nearly as great as the need that Russia has for energy. So if Russia loses its internal energy resources, even if they hold on to Ukraine and they still lose the capacity to produce energy at the rate that they need to in order to provide for China and to provide for Western and Eastern Europe, then Iran will be the go-to place. Iran will be the place where Russia will say, we have everything it takes to rebuild you. You just give us energy. And you know what Iran will do? Iran will say, no problem because everybody knows one of the largest, most oil-rich deposit areas that exist in the world is in Iran right now. By the way, probably second to Israel. People don't realize just how big Israel's oil resources are.
Well, I don't know if the oil, they get natural gas they're talking about, but here's the thing.
Energy. I'm just talking about energy in general, right? Natural gas and oil, both.
I think that Russia isn't going to allow Iran to come face to face with Israel for the same reason that Iran isn't allowing the Hezbollah to use its full potential.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, bro. Maybe. Because remember, Russia's interests are also furthered in the Golan Heights. Russia's interests are also furthered in the western border of Syria, and Russia's interests are going to be furthered in seeing Iran get their butts kicked because that gives them more leverage to be able to take advantage of their energy resource at an extraordinarily low rate. And Russia is beginning to see the writing on the wall with the energy problem that they're about to face with China. So a strong Iran or a weak Iran would both be beneficial to Russia, probably more beneficial to Russia if Iran becomes weakened. To be honest with you, because it allows Russia to assume sovereignty in that area.
Okay, so tying two more things that I think are going to be at play. One, America's energy capabilities. Basically, we could sell energy to the world if we needed to. And two, the whole South China Sea issue, or the first island issue, that if America does decide to put the squeeze on China, they will probably not, as of now, be able to break out. So
you're right.
So those two are a major holding factor that the United States has on Russia and on China right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Theoretically, but here's my problem, and maybe this is part of what we're talking about. Even though America has big sticks and strong arms to use them, it doesn't have the will to use them. That's right. I think our enemies are realizing, okay, just like Hamas understood that in the past and is surprised that Israel is willing to go where we're going right now. Okay, I don't think America has the will to use the weapons and the sticks and the influence that it does have. So what's happening is a soft, targeting of America's ability to stand against Russia on one side, China on the other side, not by standing against. You can't buy enough weapons to take America on, but you can erode America's will to actually use its weapons. And I think that is what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that I think there's a lot of that going on, and the dynamic is unique. That dynamic is one that's very, 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 very difficult to detect because you have to understand the weaknesses and the strengths of each of these regimes, and not only understand the weaknesses and the strengths of each of these regimes, you have to understand the weaknesses and the strengths of all of the economics that exist from within these regimes, right? It's super, super critical. China's weak point, China's breaking point, China's bottleneck is going to take place in their energy consumption. That's where that's going to happen, right? The bottleneck that Russia is going to face is not military. It's not militaristic. It isn't. But by the way, here's a stat that a lot of people don't know, right? And I don't blame people for not knowing because it's not widely discussed. If you take the production capacity, not even capacity, let's just forget the word capacity. Let's just say the production output of the United States of America, Ukraine, and all NATO nations, it does not even come close. Doesn't even come close to the production capacity of Russia. Russia is producing 3 times more day to day, every day, than the United States, all NATO nations, and Ukraine combined with respect to what's going on in the Ukraine war. And that does not include the drones that Russia continues to buy from Iran. So to say that we're going to outgun Russia is an absolute insane, ridiculous idea. It's not going to happen. We do not understand the will of Russia. We don't understand the idea that they can just stick with what they're sticking. We don't understand how aggressive Russia is willing to be and continues to be.
Yeah, but
we don't understand it.
Again, notwithstanding, unless Russia has found, and there are a lot of people, or China has found a carrier killer, okay, America's naval projection of power is above and beyond anything Russia can even think to dream.
Not nearly as much, bro. When you start taking a look at the Russian nuclear subs, and I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm going to have a talk when I have a chance. One of the guys on my research team, he knows like literally everything you could think of. He's got institutional memory on naval stuff. I'll have to talk to him about this. He's a retired lieutenant commander. He completely knows what he's doing. Like, he makes me look like a dummy when it comes to this stuff. But I'll have to ask him about this. But even the projection of power is irrelevant, right? When you continue to have equipment malfunction, when you continue to have a deployment that is far weaker than what's normal, the United States of America on a massive front continues to fail. Like, I'll give you a great example on this, right? In the Red Sea, when the Yemeni Houthis attacked and did exactly what they did a few months ago, remember, our capability of intercepting the last Yemeni Houthi attack was a final. It was like a Plan C tool. Like, every layer of protection that we have failed, and what we basically used was a tool that was like the last. It was the very last option, and we were lucky when we did that. And it actually shows that our capacity is dwindling, because we can have all the great equipment in the world, but if we don't have people that are confident in their use of that equipment and don't understand it well and don't own it, it's worthless.
Okay, so here's again a big picture. No matter how strong and capable, and we can argue about the abilities and the capabilities, okay? I'm just thinking about this. Think about COVID.
Yeah.
Think about this movement of pro-Palestinian support, and think about what would happen if America did need to go to war against one of its enemies. Meaning, you have the power, you have the tools, you have the military, but your home population, and if people are willing to stand up for Palestinian fundamentalist jihadi crazies, how much more would they be willing to go out and fight if American soldiers were dying on an island in the South China Sea?
Significantly more. Look, it's a good question, and actually it's more of a statement. It's rhetorical in nature, because you're making an accurate statement. You're looking at it clearly. It's a clear assessment of the circumstance. Don't get me wrong. The United States military still, hands down, is the most powerful military in the world. But the problem is, what good is that going to do when that military is extended on 35 proxy fronts? Do you understand that right now there are 35 armed conflicts going on in the world right now? 35 of them, right? The United States, and the United States is proxied or involved in well over half of those. Well over half. So at what point do you begin to say, like, what happens if China makes a full-blown invasion towards Taiwan? Are we going to be in a position to be ready? What are we going to do? Remove our carrier group from the Persian Gulf?
Are the students in Colombia, are they going to allow American soldiers to be deployed to defend Iran?
Think about that for a second. It's right now, especially with the nonsense that we're in the midst of. No way. We've worked ourselves into the ground here. So it's not a matter of, what could potentially happen. It's a matter of, my goodness, when is that going to actually happen? The United States is in essence on a puppet front right now. I mean, literally, they're a paper bag. They could literally explode at any point. And I don't think people recognize that.
Well, I think Israel is starting to recognize.
Oh, Israel recognized it a long time ago, Habibi.
I think we thought, and I might be wrong, I think we thought that we would have more backing of the greatest superpower in the world, who sees us as their ally and their friend. And I'm kind of thinking most Israelis are saying now, okay, we got to start making 9mm bullets in a kibbutz underneath the noses of the British again. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck without anything. I know that a massive amounts of time and energy now is being spent on reigniting the Israel military industries that we had actually allowed to go down. I mean, I'm going to give you names like the Uzi submachine gun that was, invented by him. The Merkava tanks, these are things that were happening in the 70s because we thought we couldn't, how do you say, count or bank on an American support, military support. They kind of disappeared or went down because we had such great backing from the United States. I'm telling you, the Israeli military industries is lighting up the furnaces again.
And I'm telling you it's getting worse. And I think I agree with Carolyn Glick when she called everybody she called Israel to start making their weapons again. I think she was right. But not just weapons, but ammo, right? But like, look, this is not just unique to Israel right now, right? This isn't. As a matter of fact, it's interesting when you go over the British and what the British actually did and the agreement that they had developed with respect to the timeline of decolonization of Hong Kong, okay? Like, you have to look, the complexities associated with British colonies are something that could be studied for a whole lifetime, right? Just go and study just Aden for one example in Yemen, right? Spend some time looking at how it went from Aden to southern Yemen, and you learn the story of that, and that in and of itself is just history repeating itself again and again and again and again. The colonization of Hong Kong, or the decolonization of Hong Kong, so to speak, the official withdrawal or removal from interest in Hong Kong, is a complex, very complex subject. There's only probably 3 subject matter experts on it that I would actually trust. Larry Arnn being one of them, by the way, the president of Hillsdale College. He's probably the smartest guy on the block on the Hong Kong issue. He's the most authoritative guy to go to. But when I was studying, I listened to a lot of him. But here's the thing that's interesting with that. The United States of America, under the leadership of this clown, right, has already shown its face. If we're not willing to step in to the situation in Hong Kong with one of our allies who pretty much abandoned the agreement, right, our strongest ally on the other side of the Atlantic, the Brits, if we're willing to just basically say, well, this is on our bit, we're not going to leave it, you know what, China can do whatever they want to do, and actually support China in their position and basically deny what actually happened in Hong Kong to anybody else. Look, what do you think is going to happen when Taiwan gets invaded? We've already shown our face. We've shown our face. The whole idea behind the position of the Mediterranean, the carrier group in the Mediterranean, had nothing to do with us wanting to defend Israel. It had everything to do with us making a statement with respect to Russia. That's what that was.
Again, if the Chinese invade Taiwan tomorrow, the American public will not have the guts or the stamina or the ability to have American soldiers dying on the hills of Taiwan.
Well, they won't have the guts to do that until their computers stop working and until they can't buy a new iPhone and until they can no longer drive their cars. See, that's the thing.
So who's going to make them?
Well, the United States will probably have to figure out a way to make them, but the problem is our capability of producing.
Country that has a technological capability to do that.
Israel. We already know that Israel's the largest exporter, right? Besides Taiwan, it's Taiwan, then it's Israel. But here's even the problem with that, right? A lot of the chipsets that are coming out of Taiwan are the ones that a lot of the programming are being done. So the problem is, because this is the thing that people, again, they didn't listen to President Trump, and they should have listened to him in this. They should have. He got factories. He gave incentives to factories to retool themselves here in the United States of America, and then try to incentivize regular manufacturers to update their coding to be able to work with these chipsets that were being developed here in the United States. Why? Because let's say Taiwan dies tomorrow. Let's just say China takes over Taiwan. It's closed. There's nothing we can do. It's done. We are 4 years away. At the bare minimum, we are 4 years away from touching anything that's innovative or new. 4 years, David. 4 years. So that's 4 years without a new car, 4 years without a new phone, 4 years without anything.
You don't think America's going to pick up some of that slack, or Israel's going to pick up some of that slack?
Israel doesn't need to pick up any of that slack. Israel doesn't rely on any of it. Israel relies fully on itself for all of that, and half the world relies on Israel chipsets. There's not a single cell phone that anybody owns right now in this country that doesn't have at least one chip produced in Israel.
I know. We know that.
So Israel's not going to suffer. Israel's not going to be the one that's going to suffer. It's America.
I want to ask another question. I'm changing subjects because I'm going to have to go soon.
Yeah.
How was it on PragerU?
Oh, it was great. It was a great It was a great experience. Matter of fact, I didn't anticipate it being like this, but we did about 2 hours worth of recording, and virtually all of the recording was about Israel. It was mostly an Israel recording, which was awesome. Like, I was very blessed to be able to do that. It was great. I think what the particular interest that they had was somebody speaking from the perspective of a man who's first generation into this country from Egypt, and the thought that they were pretty enthralled that somebody from Egypt would be so supportive and, as they said it, very aware of what's happening in Israel, like just the awareness of the truth. It was a great experience. It's a great, and
when can we see it?
I think they're doing all the pre-production work on it for the next month or so, and it releases in like a month. It's a while out. It's going to be a while out. It would have been good. I wish you were here in country, because if you were, then I would have taken you with me. You could have met up with because you know the CEO of PragerU. She's a really wonderful lady, and she was there. She actually came by to actually say hello because she knew that I was there.
I have a feeling we're going to touch bases with PragerU a little bit more, because there is a polarization going on in the United States. And the lines are being drawn in the sand as we speak, and we're going to be on the same side with PragerU and Charlie Kirk and a couple others that are basically on that side of the line. I don't know how loud and how complex our voices are going to be, but yes, that's basically what I see happening.
Yeah, it's an amazing circumstance that we're seeing, in that I do believe that God is allowing lots of people to see things that they never saw before. And a lot of truth is being shown right now, which is a tremendous blessing. I mean, it's something that we've been praying for, but there's a lot going on right now. There's just a lot at stake, and we have to really be thinking through all of it. We really do. There's so much to be said. And again, people are not thinking. They're just not thinking through this, because they're more obsessed about their comfort zone. They're more obsessed about their local economics. They're more obsessed about getting their soda pop or their cup of coffee, but they're not really concerned much about the world around them. And they don't understand that by not being concerned about the world around you is going to come get you. And that's the scary part, right? That's the part that's like, oh, this does not feel good.
So here's the thing. I mean, if anybody doesn't realize it, I'll say it again. If they get through us, they're coming for you.
It's the whole purpose. It's the whole purpose. In many cases, like Iran says that the United States is the big devil. Israel's the little devil to Iran. So
not only Iran, the students in Columbia University are saying the same thing. And you know, it's absurd that on your Memorial Day, a Memorial Day parade is stopped by a Free Palestine rally.
Well, look, forgive me for saying this, but these kids are incredibly stupid. And I have no problem using the word. Their intellect might be at the capacity of my shoe. They are stupid kids.
But they're the leaders, James. They're the leaders of tomorrow. What are we going to do?
Yeah. I don't know. Look, I think that there's going to come a point in time where if America has even a remote chance of surviving, someone's going to get Reagan-esque and is going to call these kids out for what they are. You're a bunch of stupid kids. You are. You have no idea what you're talking about. Let's take you and stick you into Tel Aviv while you say Free Palestine, and no one will say a dang thing to you. But we stick you into Gaza. Yeah. You know, come on. I'm telling you, these stupid girls that continue to wear their kafia on around their neck, like, you idiot. Do you have any understanding what you're doing? Just for people that don't know what that means, okay? The kafia is only worn by men, and it's a tribal indicator. You like, if a woman were to wear it around her neck like a scarf, you know what they would do with that kafia in Gaza? They would wrap it around your neck and hang you.
It's like an Indian headdress.
It's like, what are you doing? Like these girls, I'm wearing it. You're literally insulting the very people that you claim to be defending.
But I actually saw Hania saying thank you to all these American students. I mean, they're doing the job for them. And again, I'm watching what's happening. I mean, Israel is being held back by world public opinion, and these young kids are influencing it.
Yep. I just wish we could. This sounds really terrible, but let's just import Hamas into some of these other countries, and let's just see how long they feel the way that they feel.
I'd say something else. Let's import Jesus into some of this stuff.
No, I agree. Listen, that's where the real truth is going to come. That's where the real truth is going to come. But listen, I'll just tell you this right now. There's a lot of ignorant, stupid people that are doing some crazy things in the name of Jesus. Bisma Yeshua.
Oh, yep.
We're seeing it. We're seeing it.
We need to talk about how some elements of Christianity are going off wacko, and Candace Owen is one of the names that's coming up literally on my feed every once in a while, and there are others.
Yep. No, I agree. Yeah. Listen. This situation continues to grow complex, and the terrible part about the growing complexity is the fact that lots of people are too lazy to educate themselves to better understand it.
So, which brings us to the fact that we're at least talking to people who are trying to listen to what's going on.
Yep, absolutely. And we're doing everything that we can to get them to see it. Because look, if we continue to ignore what is really happening in front of us, it's coming for us. Like it's coming for us. I mean, everybody understand? They're coming for you and me. It's just, I don't know why that's so hard for some of us to understand. I just don't understand it.
So I'll be wearing this in LA. Let's see what happens.
Amen. When are you back, by the way?
15th of June.
Okay.
16th.
So when you're back, we'll have to have you come and talk at the church. Give us an update on everything that's going on. It'll be good. I think everybody's been blessed to hear from you. With all the changes coming up in Iran, folks, stand by. By the way, we've got some really good analysis coming. I'm releasing some videos. The video that David's releasing today is an important one. You guys need to watch it. Very, very important. So we'll release that video hopefully by 1:30 is when we'll release it.
Okay, so I'm talking about the missiles that were fired, but I'm also talking about what happened in Rafah. So if people want a little bit of an understanding about that one. I mean, we covered most of it today, but that'll get another layer.
No, it's important, and I like the concise way you're putting it. And actually, David's videos are highly shareable. Like, you guys should take his videos and share them with people because he's a great educator, right? It's very concise, very to the point, not a lot of fluff laying around it. He's just very direct. So I think I think it's useful. So, okay, David, any other closing thoughts or anything like that before we wrap it up? We've been for 2 hours, and folks, this is David's fault. You can blame him, but we went so long that we're not going to have time to do locals today. I'm really sorry about that, but I will post a special video up on locals for you guys today.
I am to blame. Yes, pray for Sean, and I'm using Sean, my nephew, because he symbolizes for me all the guys that are inside Gaza right now, and dealing with this. I mean, very complex. Do you pull the trigger? Don't you pull the trigger? How much do you put your own men in line? I mean, on the battlefield in that kind of situation, pray for the people of Gaza. This is,
Amen.
I mean, if I could ask you, I mean, if I could transfer you back to 1944 and I say, pray for the people of Japan, knowing what we know today, you would be praying.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I want to put in people's mind, pray for the people of Gaza like you would pray for the people of Japan before the end of World War II. I mean, that is something just to remember.
Yeah, I agree. Man, I agree with you. Well, with that, let's pray. Let's do that right now. Father in heaven, we just thank you, Lord, for your faithfulness and goodness to us, Lord. Lord, we thank you for these precious gifts, Lord, that you've given us, Lord, these Jews. We thank you, Lord, for the fact that you are faithful, Lord, and that you love us. Lord, that you cared about us, that you care about us, Lord, and that all that you're doing, Lord, Father, you're faithful. So, Father, just go before us, Lord. Teach us what you want us to learn in a result of this, Lord. We do pray, Lord, for these Jews, Lord, that you would protect them, Lord. We pray, God, for David's nephew. We pray, God, for all of these kids that are out there fighting right now, Lord. We pray, God, that you would protect your people, Lord. We pray, God, for the safety and the growth of Israel. We also pray for the peace of Jerusalem. So, Lord, we love you and thank you. Go before us now. Fill us with your spirit. We just ask these things in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I do want to do this because I missed it during the show, and it's always useful to be able to acknowledge you guys when you do this. I do want to thank you guys that have submitted some super chats and super stickers waiting on the Lord. You say, hey, Pastor James and David, God bless. What is a possibility that God is using the anti-Semitism here in the U.S. to force the Jews that are in their comfort zone to move back to Israel according to the scripture. That's
We are
always been the
seeing
case.
we are seeing
Yeah.
a big influx.
Yep. Yeah, that's what happened during World War II.
Yep.
And so I agree with you. I think that's a great observation, and it's something that we should expect. And Bartjan just wanted to send me €2 to tell me that I talk too much. He doesn't really think that. Well, maybe he does, but he must like it. Waiting on the Lord. These people are brutal. Let me read this super chat to you, right?
Okay.
Here's $20 to keep you quiet for 20 minutes. Just kidding, James. Just have to have fun. I think that's very sweet. Because I know it comes from a place of love.
Oh, come on, James. I love this audience, really.
Yeah, they're really. Listen. The majority of our audience, they're just really amazing people. I was speaking more to the naysayers, but our audience is awesome. We have a really, really great, loyal. I mean, just outright amazing group of people that just love the Lord. They love one another. They love us. They're amazing. They're really good people. And you know what? They're the ones that are praying for you every day, bro. That's for sure. I know they're praying for me every day because I feel them. I feel the prayers.
And before I forget, say thank you to Dale behind you there, or in front of you there on your left.
Yeah,
and
he's in the other room. Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, I miss you guys.
Yeah, you need to come soon, Habibi. You need to come soon so we can have some coffee in the studio together.
Couple of weeks.
Yep, I miss you. Yeah, I can't wait to see you, Habibi. All right, we'll see you guys later. Guys, yeah, God bless you. Keep fighting the good fight, guys. And remember to take a stand for righteousness. God will bless you for it. We'll see you on the next one. We've got some great videos we're releasing. Tomorrow's video, Countdown to Eternity, is going to be a great one with me and Tom. We've got some other great ones coming your way. Don't forget, today, 1:30, David's new video. That's the only one we're focusing on. 1:30. I'm not releasing anything after this. Go to David. Go to his video, and we'll upload it, Lord willing, around 1:30. I think we'll get it up by 1:30. All right? God bless you guys. We'll see you later. Keep fighting the good fight.